Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Transform Your Children's Library into an Interactive STEAM Learning Environment. I'm Liz Bowie, and I'll be moderating today's session. Before we get started, I just want to go through some housekeeping details, and then I'll introduce our speaker, and she can start today's presentation. On your screens, you should see a question box on the right-hand side. If you have a question or need technical help, please use the question box to communicate with us. If we don't get to your question during the session, we'll be posting questions and answers along with the recorded webcast, presentation slides, and resources after the event. There is also a resource document that you can download during the webinar with some of the books and websites you'll be hearing about today, and this is located in your control panel. You'll also receive an email in about a week letting you know when everything is available for you. You'll also notice our presenters' contact information as well as mine, so please feel free to contact us directly with any questions that haven't been answered in the follow-up resources. We're also using Twitter today with the hashtag DemcoIdeas. You should be able to see this hashtag on the side of your screen in the chat box. We are monitoring that feed as well for questions and comments. I believe that's all the housekeeping, so let's get started with the program. As I mentioned, I'm Liz Bowie, Content Manager at Demco, and I'm moderating today's session. I'm very excited to introduce you to our speaker today, Amparo Lehman-Pino. Amparo is an education consultant based in the San Francisco Bay Area and a past assistant director at the Family Engagement Institute at Foothill College. She holds a bachelor's in psychology and a master's in education and is an alum of the Noyce Leadership Institute. Since 1994, she has been dedicated to working closely with children, teenagers, and adults in both formal and informal environments. Throughout her life, she has been moved by her passion for education and by a quest to discover methodologies and theories that can help others learn and acquire knowledge. Amparo's focus has been on innovation, cultural relevancy, and the development of quality interactive learning communities. She has broad experience and proficiency in the education field in formal and informal education environments, including teaching, counseling, training, professional development, curriculum development, assessment, research, technology integration, content development, after-school programs, e-learning, and informal education of science, technology, the arts, and interpersonal development through exhibits. We're so excited to learn from her wide breadth of knowledge today. I do want to mention that Amparo will be using her webcam today to show us some wonderful tools that she has. So during the presentation, you can hover over her webcam and enlarge that portion of the screen using the arrows. Or you may see some double white lines there, which you can pull down so you can see the webcam and enlarge the screen. So it looks like we're ready to get started. So Amparo, you can take it away whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much. Good morning from California. Good afternoon everywhere else. And let's get started. Thank you so much for having me. And we're gonna talk today about how to transform your children's library into an interactive STEAM learning environment. This is a very dear topic to me because all my life I've been doing this type of programming, creating these activities throughout my career in several parts of the globe. So I'm going to share these experiences with you. I'm going to try to inspire you about this topic so you can get a lot of ideas for your library or your learning environment, whatever it is, an after-school program, a school, library within a school. So I would like to start with this quote from Stephen Hawking that says, "Science is not only a discipline of reason, but also one of romance and passion." So I'm gonna try you to fall in love with these STEAM principles to have this amazing programming in your institution. And first of all, we're gonna tackle the first question that we posted in the webinar, why this is important, why we're trying to do these things. And I think that we're gonna do this, or we are doing this, because every person is a scientist himself, herself. Every person has this idea of inquiry and discovery, innovation, and invention. That's what it entitles science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics. So every time that we ask questions, we are doing science. We are putting ourselves to do science. Science is about those type of questions. I'm gonna refer a lot to Newton during this webinar, but Newton was sitting below a tree, and he was thinking and asking himself, how come the apple always falls in a straight line? How come it goes in this? What is this force that's come along? So he came up with this idea of gravity and the forces of gravity, and a theory around it, which was like beyond Galileo, beyond, and now of course Einstein has gone beyond this concept, but he started with a question sitting below a tree. Every time that we measure, we are doing science, and children, families, they are all the time measuring things, places, persons, right? And science is really precise. And that's why every time that we're trying to measure something, we are doing science or STEM related things. Every time we compare, science is it's about comparing things. Why this is taller than, smaller than, color-wise, bigger, size, color, characteristics. Scientists all the time collect data and compare it between them, all the time. Data is about comparison, and that's also a way to do STEAM. I hope that these words that I'm saying, these verbs of comparing, measuring, are prompting in you these ideas of what we can do in our libraries to improve or to incorporate these STEAM activities. Every time we observe, we're doing science as well. Every time we're putting our eyes in something that I noticed that now the flowers are blossoming. At least here in my tree outside my house, they are. So I wonder, is the spring coming earlier? How come it's raining, right? But scientists spend their whole life observing. And this amazing scientist, Mrs. Goodall, has spent all her life observing and observing and observing chimpanzees and their behavior. And she has learned a lot from these observations about this species, which is amazing. I love these two photos of Joan Young, and then later on in her life as a scientist. Every time we solve problems, we are being scientists. We're doing science. We solve problems all the time when we fix things, when we invent things to create something new. We are solving problems. And science will be either on Earth or in the space. We are all the time thinking and inventing and going further whatever we have. Every time we cook, we are doing science. And it's something that we do every day. I hope so, that you have the opportunity to cook and then you're doing science. Chemistry, for example, and cooking are very similar. They're very close to each other. And every time we're cooking, we are doing science, we're doing chemistry, and that's a way to connect. And last but not least, every time we classify, we are doing science. Scientists classify stuff, things, information, data, for us to understand, to find these similarities amongst species, amongst rocks, amongst anything that is around us, right? So how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna incorporate these STEAM activities in your library? How are we gonna do it in an innovative way? How are we gonna do it in the spirit of the 21st century skills? Well, these 4 C's are the pillars of these 21st century skills. The Common Core standards and the next generation science standards are proposing or inviting us as educators to go beyond the explaining the concepts that we need to create and to provoke in the classroom, in the learning environments, these 4 skills. 1, critical thinking. We don't want children to just receive the information. We want them to be challenged by this information and discover things beyond that, interpret this, go beyond what is in front of their noses, in front of their eyes, and through an inquiry process, have this critical thinking. It's also about collaboration. We're not learning individually, we're learning as a community. So the opportunity that you have in your libraries to do this amazing job of having families together, groups together, schools together is a great opportunity for collaboration, which prompts leadership, which prompts flexibility, responsibility, exchange of ideas, negotiation, then negotiation or negotiating these ideas. Which idea goes first? Yours is really important. How can we incorporate both, right? It's something that we need in our current society. And then communication, which is not only the ability to communicate ideas, but also to listen effectively, to have this opportunity to elaborate an idea and then express it to others and in a critical or with critical thinking way, right? And then the 4C is creativity, which is idea generation, idea integration. It's being innovative. And even though we're talking about a lot of science, the arts are also going through the same process. Critical thinking, collaboration, communication, creativity goes also with the arts. Is not away from or different from these 4Cs. So if we think about the pillars of these programs that we're gonna, or ideas that we're gonna go through, go back to these 4Cs. We're gonna talk about this critical thinking, communication, creativity, and collaboration all the time during this presentation. This is vital for your programming or your ideas. Is this program making our kids and families collaborate? Is this program make our kids and families have critical thinking? Are they communicating amongst each other? Are they writing their thoughts and ideas? Are they bringing new approaches through creativity, through collaborative work with others, production, innovation? Then we're doing a great job. Okie dokie, let's move forward. So back in the day, I'm gonna now tackle the next generation science standards, which are inviting us to go beyond whatever happened in school. And I'm gonna go here to my notes so I cover everything from next generation standards. So the NGSS, the Next Generation Science Standards, they want children to go and understand cross-cutting concepts. For example, nanotechnology, for example, molecules, for example, solar panels. These things are new in our society. They are cross-cutting concepts. They want children to be in contact with the practice of science, engineering, mathematics, technology, not only to hear about it or to learn about it, and to have disciplinary core ideas, things, concepts that are going to be the foundation for their science in understanding and practice. So back in the day, when we were in, for example, in our physics class, we were learning about the third law of Newton, about action and reaction, with a formula about a force, putting into an object that is equal and to the force applied to that object, and reverse for the force that this object applies to us. And we have to put an F equals VA equals FAB. And we were trying to do that on paper, right? Or at least that's how I learned physics a long time ago. And it was all about the formula and understanding the concept in a very abstract way. Around 50 years ago, science centers and interactive museums, children's museums, started moving the understanding of this physics and these scientific concepts into hands-on activities. And that's why I'm putting this photo on the presentation about these balls, right? Where instead of understanding action and reaction in a formula, we're gonna do an activity. We're gonna create this exhibit that will portray this phenomena, and then we're gonna pull the ball that will hit the other 5 balls and make the last ball to go outside of this as an experiment that I can see. It's tangible. Science goes from the paper, the formula, the abstract thinking to the very precise, hands-on, tangible way to understand science. But now my invitation is to go even further, even beyond that, and is to make our communities to create this hands-on activities, hands-on experiences by themselves. And that's where, or when the maker movement comes into place and makes a lot of sense. So instead of us putting these exhibits or experiences there to play with, to interact with, we can create a learning environment where people can create those experiences. In the resources that you have, I send you a video of a chain reaction experiment that was created in Europe, in EXCITE conference. EXCITE is the European Network of Science Centers and Museums. And last year in our annual conference, the host city of Graz partnered with the Children's Museum of Graz, the Frida and Fred Museum, and the Science Museum, Universum. They created an activity with whole Graz. They invited the whole community to participate, creating a chain reaction. So the photo that you're seeing now on screen is just a screenshot of the whole video, where you can see families, teachers creating their own part of a huge chain reaction. So it's not only understanding the concept of action and reaction from the third law of Newton, but putting it in place, creating a chain reaction. Each school or after school program, organization like the Boys, Girls Scouts had a palette, and within that space they could create this chain reaction of moving domino that pushes the string, that makes the marbles go down, that hit the hammer, that makes the hammer go around and hit another thing, and then click, goes to the next panel, and so on, creating a chain reaction. I think it's a very cool activity. It's a very interesting way to engage a community-wide project, and I'm gonna leave it there so you can see the video later and get inspired by it. And if you want to create this, go ahead. Everything that I'm saying in this webinar, take notes and make it your ideas. So how are we gonna incorporate these activities in your library? How are we gonna make the bridge between the books and the STEM? And seriously, every book has a great opportunity to make these bridges. So I'm gonna talk about some of the books, some of the activities that we have done in the past in the communities, and other ideas that will come up from them. Okay, so, and where all these activities, all this type of programming that I'm going to suggest you are things that we do in these science centers and children's museums. So for example, this amazing book, Actual Size, from Steve Jenkins, it's a beautiful, huge book that shows the actual size of the hands, the eyes, the neck, the head of different animals. And it's really interesting because children through this book can compare, right? Remember that it's a scientific activity. Compare their own size, for example, their hand with the hand of the gorilla, or their arm with the tail, or the snake, or the moth, whatever is in the book they can compare. And then once we read the book and we interact with the book, we can do activities where, oh, what is my actual size, right? So children can draw themselves, and now we have an artistic activity because children are competent and they're capable of making a self-portrait, right? Like the girl in the photo. And then we're gonna measure it. And these blocks are an inch wide. You can also use centimeters or Lego blocks or measuring tape. So children can make the portrait of themselves and then measure themselves and discover what is their own actual size, right? And then they can go outside the library or the school and measure other things and discover the actual size. It could be with a string, right? That is the length of a metro or 2 meters or a meter, 2 meters. It could be the length of myself, so how many myself I can measure on this tree, on this bench. So you can go outside and measure other things and compare. This is a really, really cool book. It takes a lot of reflections and scientific critical thinking within it. Another one and dear activity that I really love and children really enjoy, it's about floating and sinking, which is one of the principles that we use for transportation, for even survival, right? Can I float, right? What things can float, which is best for creating a canoe, this material, this other material. So I'm suggesting you these 2 books. I'm also putting the resources, other books that are inspiring for STEM related careers or activities. But for example, What Floats in a Moat, it's a great book because these 2 fellows, the goat and the chicken, are trying to discover a way to move things around the moat. And then children can have their own container with water and test things that float and sink. Which ones will go to the bottom of the container? Which ones are gonna float on the top of the container? And then think about other things. If you have a lake around and you can do a competition with paper boats. This activity could go beyond. And then there's another book, Who Sank the Boat? And it's a very funny story where, and maybe you're librarians and know better which books could work also with these topics or others. But the thing is that these really sweet stories can prompt or guide us to think about problem solving, to make us wonder, what if, right? And create things in real life to solve those problems. So if you were the goat, what type of thing would you do to float in the moat? If you don't want things to sink, what will you do to prevent what happened to these fellows in Who Sank the Boat? Literature, as I told you, is full of ideas related to STEAM. Jules Verne's books are amazing in this regard, and as these books, there are many other stories that people have written in order to inspire us on innovation, on creation, on what if, right, scenarios. This is, I am very dear about Jules Verne. I read them as a little kid, and it really make an impact in my way of thinking or imagining, and even impacting the way I used to play and do things around my house. I didn't have all the toys in the world, so we used to use cardboard boxes, things that we have there in the house, like old rags and objects that mom was going to toss, and we were like, no, 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 we can play with that. We can play with that. So think about those things in order to create this programming in your library or institution. So how are we gonna do this? So it's really interesting how to set up a problem so we could create solutions for that problem. And actually, that's sometimes what mostly happens in stories, right? There's a plot in the book, a novel, a short story, and in this story, there's always a problem, a situation, an issue, an opportunity. And we're trying to figure out how this character is going to come up with a solution, get out of this conundrum, figure out a way to escape or go beyond or meet the girl or save a person, right? So and this is science principle. We have a problem and we need to come up with a solution. That's how innovation has come along. Technology is based on a problem and its solution. So what we do is we use the engineering design process. In your set of resources, I'm also putting other websites. The website where I took this is from this amazing children's museum in St. Paul, in the Twin Cities area. And they have, and I love this one because it's really detailed. The Museum of Science in Boston has also another framework on the engineering design process, which is more simplified, let's say, or put it that way. And I love this one from the works because it really walks you through step by step. This one is based on the one that MOS has. So it's the engineering design process allow us to think about programs and projects that we can do with our families in your informal learning setting. So it goes from identifying a problem or an opportunity. What is the challenge? What are the limits? Why there's an opportunity to create something different to help people in a wheelchair, or an opportunity to improve, let me think, how to freeze food or whatever. And then explore, which is the second step. Explore, find out what others have done. Explore other solutions that are out there, or gather materials to see what can we use in order to create or to improve this problem. And then here comes the maker in us, the design part and the creation of this design. So it's prototyping on paper, it's maybe creating a model, and then it's building the idea, creating the idea. So if we're gonna use any kind of book and we go through this engineering design process, at some point we're gonna be facing a maker step. We're gonna be with people trying to create something, and creating a maker space makes a lot of sense. And then after designing and creating, we need to try it out. So we have to go outside, we need to put the ramps to see if the car rolls, if the thing jumps, if the rubber band is tight enough. So testing is important. And we test and we find errors and we make it better and we go back to design and we create again. And things can go on and on and on until we have a final product. Children love to do this. They are inventors. They are ready for this type of activities. So in your library, you can have these prototyping spaces. As I love this picture because it portrays that your library is what it is, a library. But it's transformed with Play-Doh and Legos. Things are simple to get. You don't have to invest. If you have the resources, go ahead with a 3D printer. But if you don't have those resources, and simple things are the best things. And the simpler things are, the better to prompt this critical thinking and this creativity to collaborate and bring up with a new model. So Play-Doh is easy, the Lego blocks are easy to get, to work with, to prototype, right? And then another idea that could work in a library setting is, why not let's make a section of technology devices, appliances, electronic toys. So children come and they're with screwdrivers and opening the CD player, a Walkman, right, that we used to love in the 80s, and we have one at home, or that old-fashioned cell phone. Make children to open them, to go inside the guts of these things, how things work. What is inside? How come the paper comes out by itself from the printer? So this is another way to put an activity, inexpensive, in your library where children can be engineers, be inventors. Because in order to create something new, you need to understand what has been done before. So this is super cool. Kids, believe me, they love it. I have seen this in science museums. I have seen this in after-school programs. This of dissecting the computer, the cell phone, the Palm Pilot, man, they love it. Just be careful if you have LCD screens and things like that, that you have somebody there to help them, or that there are no toxic parts. But otherwise, go ahead, give them the hammers, give them the screwdrivers. Believe me, it's super fun activity. Let's move on with more ideas. And this is related to the cardboard challenge. I don't know if you're familiar with or you have heard about Kane's Arcade and the cardboard challenge. A few years ago, this kid who lives in West LA was in his dad's auto parts shop, used auto parts shop, and he was kind of bored and trying to find something to do. So he decided to use the cardboard boxes and the tape that dad had around the shop and started building an arcade with these cardboard boxes and the tape. Please, I invite you dearly to see this YouTube video. It became like a mini documentary, and then it became a whole movement and even fundraising initiative to help Kane to get to college. So this kid that created this arcade in his dad's shop or store became into a huge movement. So now every year there's this cardboard challenge. And what it is tape and cardboard and a lot of imagination to create things with cardboard, which is inexpensive. And if you have in your library a parking lot and you don't want, because you don't want your library to get messy inside, go ahead, put a tent if it is a very sunny day, and let children play and create with this cardboard. The video is very inspiring if you want to go with the arcade idea, like the ones that are on screen, like the football table or the balls that go down, and then depending where the ball falls is the prize that you get. Or I have done the cardboard challenge with a topic, for example, the city of the future, bam, a machine that writes, bam, a toaster, bam, clothes, a helmet to for cycling or skateboarding. You know, it's putting a problem to children and they have to solve it through cardboard prototyping. Also in your resources, I put another video on why or how to do prototyping with cardboard boxes. It's a very interesting video from a company that is they create new appliances and new things, and they always prototype with cardboard. So it's really self-explanatory, even though I love to give resources that are either with closed captioning or with bilingual, for example, if you want to reach out Spanish-speaking audiences as well. But these videos are so self-explanatory that if they don't have the bilingual version, you can go through them very, very easy. Let's move forward. So another idea that I will suggest to you is don't try to do everything by yourselves. Try to partner with people that are already doing STEM or STEAM related or inspired programs. Be stronger with other institutions. So, of course, the first thing that comes into my mind is museums. And because I have worked most of my life with this type of institutions, I'm putting these three examples. Look around in your local science centers and children's museums of the programs that they're offering in this regard. But for example, here in San Jose, California, the Tech Museum of Innovation has an amazing program called the Tech Challenge. Every year, for 30 years, they have put a problem for children. This is a program for late elementary school, middle school, and high school. So the challenge is a problem that they need to solve, and the Tech Challenge is 2 days where they bring their prototypes to test them and prove that they have created or innovated with a new invention that solves that problem. For example, how to bring water to a community that is uphill where there's no pipes, for example, or how to land a spacecraft in a crater. And this year is the ravine. So how they can do from one iceberg to another through a ravine. So it's really interesting how to put a challenge with a real life problem where children with an adult mentor work together as a team. Again, the 4 C's are here in place, right? Work as a team and come up with a solution. And you have no idea, there are no repeated solutions in this, and there are hundreds of teams. And also in this Tech Challenge, it's also applaud or acknowledge the most amazing failure, which is very important in science. In science, we have a growth mindset, and failing is as important as succeeding, because the failure will tell us that that thing, that way, doesn't work, so we need to keep on looking. So it's very interesting to have this idea being seated in our children. I'm going to move forward and talk about the Museum of Science in Boston. They have this amazing website called Engineering is Elementary, and it's a series of curriculum, ideas, programs that you can download, read, partner with people locally where you are, and create a super amazing program related to engineering. So you can even call them, write them an email, hey, I'm trying to do engineering in elementary, any tips that you can help me with. They seriously, this museum has done a lot of great programs, and if this doesn't work with you, go on their website. They have many other topics. Third idea or program is the Flip Literacy program, which is the Children's Museum of Houston and the local libraries. They have partnered to create these bags. You can see that there's like a house and there are like totes, and in the tote there's a book and an activity. So people go to the library, they check out this book with the activity, they do the activity, and there's something more than reading the book. And it's really amazing. There's a lot of research behind this. You can go to the website, it's in your resources to do that. Another interesting thing is, why not bring in experts to your library? You know, an astronaut, an engineer, an architect, but also let's bring people with live animals. If you don't have a fish tank in your library, or you don't want to have like an ant farm or a ladybug community, you can bring somebody with a real animal, and believe me, it's super amazing. So you can read a book. It could be something like The Greedy Python from Richard Buckley and Eric Carle, or you can go with Uncle Snake and then bring a real snake, and that will make seriously a great impact in your community, to have something to look, to touch, and look at the photo. Parents are a little more scared than children. Children are the first ones to go, and I want to touch the snake. The guy says that it's okay, and they will love it. And that will make connections, will prompt things in children in a very impactful way. There's another great program that Lockheed Martin has, and is sending these engineers to schools and libraries. So they go with their programs and they put it there, and guess what? They also match the donations of these people working in your library or your institution. So get involved with these big companies, with these amazing for-profit companies that they want to make an impact in children and in families through science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. And guess what? They want also to fund your efforts to make this difference in society. So don't take it, how can I say? I'm thinking in Spanish, I'm so sorry, but don't think that it's, oh, they're not gonna look at us because we're small. No. Knock the door. They would love to go to your community. And there are other things that you can do. For example, universities have a lot of programs to go to your community. For example, the geologists here at Stanford University, they go to the classrooms and to the libraries and bring the rocks and have the activities, and they love it. And they also, these universities, provide internships to high school students. And these high school students could be the ones who deliver the programs in your library. So you're creating this like path of workforce readiness to go through these things, which is really amazing. There are other online resources where you can get inexpensive materials for you to put in your library. For example, RAF, the resource area for teaching, they have a lot of kits and ideas. They have the Makerspace starter kit, which is really inexpensive. I think it's $23. I'm not making any promotion whatsoever. These are the resources that I use myself to create these programs. But one of the things that I read in your questions was, how can we do it with a small budget? Okay, I'm gonna give you these ideas that are super inexpensive or even free. So Raft has these super inexpensive supplies. You can also go to the National Informal STEM Education Network, and everything is, they have things that are for free to download. You can also get, if you want to put, switch your camera, so I'm gonna show things now, so you can see them bigger in your screen. So I'm gonna show you some of the books, and then we're gonna go back to this. All these websites are also in the resources. So the first one I want to show you is the Nano Days collection. So there's a series of activities of all the Nano Days that we have created in the past. I've been a NiceNet partner since 2007, and these are all activities that you can do about nanotechnology with very simple materials that you can get, and objects that you maybe even you have in your school, in your science center. They also have a lot of resources to help you start with, like program development, right? You can also think about these other super amazing do-it-yourself activities. That is do-it-yourself nano. This book is also in their website, right? And now that there's the it came from the nanoscale informal science education to the National Informal STEM Education Network. Now they have activities about Earth and space, building biology, sustainability, and other topics in science. And if you subscribe there and you see what type of kits they have, you can subscribe and they will send it to you for free. Or if you're not a qualifying institution, you can download all the activities for free as well. I'm gonna move forward and talk about the Foundation for Family Science and Engineering. This foundation has published 2 books. If you can see, I use my book a lot with all the activities. But these 2 books, the Family Science and the Family Engineering, are books that have amazing ideas to create a family program in your school, in your library. You can have these books as part of your resources in your library. And look, it has activities with engineer connection. Everything is a problem that has to be solved using engineering things. These books are English and Spanish, which is really amazing. And in the website, you can also purchase a kit from them, and it has all the supplies that you will need to do these activities. As I told you, the NiceNet also has these free kits that you can get in a box. For example, this one, I hope you're seeing it, it's a nano twister. So as the twister that you know, right, you're gonna go to the carpet that has the nano shapes, and then they have some background information for us and explaining the activity itself, how to work it. And yes, it has the mat. So here's the nano mat. I should have opened it earlier for you to see. And another one that I have here on hand also is the Exploring Size Powers of 10 game. So it's a card game. It comes here like in a box, and you have these cards, right, with the powers of sizes. So this is stadium, it's 2 sizes or +2, and an amoeba is -4, and so forth. And red cell is -6. So these things can create a lot of interactions and a lot of thinking around science in your library and learning setting. There are other things that you can do very inexpensive, right? Like these these bags, goodie bags with this tape that is wire tape and is conductive, and you can have them create their own circuit with these flat batteries, right? That we're very familiar of these type of batteries for all our electronic devices, and LED lights. So they can create a circuit in a very simple way to create something. All these materials are super, super accessible in terms of price and places to get them. But most important, go to these websites to get inspired and think about other things. So it's 10 to the hour, and I would like to turn the mic to you so we can have some questions, and I'd be glad to either make them bigger or to help you with more ideas. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amparo. So it does look like we have time for a couple questions from our listeners. And just a reminder for everybody, there will be a full question and answer document emailed to you next week if we don't get to your question today. So one of our first questions here from our listeners is somebody would like to know if you have any tips for helping, how do you explain the importance of STEAM and STEAM concepts to parents, to patrons, to other staff members in your library?
This is a very important thing to do, right? Because first of all, children don't come to the library or to museums or even schools without the parents. So the parents need to have this buy-in. They need to believe in what we do, right? But believe me, one of the most interesting and important things that we can express to our patrons is in the future of all the future jobs that are gonna be available are related to these higher thinking areas of knowledge in science, in engineering, in innovation, in creating new things. Um, I think that also it's another way to motivate these parents and these educators is let's squeeze the full potential of your children. Children are themselves scientists, and working with them, inspiring or having these inspiring learning environments will help them to move their potential 1,000%. And it's like having a superpower that you're not using because you don't have the right environment to work on it. So this way to create this buy-in, it could be also with, for example, some handouts are in the library saying why we care about science. It's important for you to have like a clear statement in your library, in your school, why science is important for you as an institution. This goes to our core values. This goes to our vision of the future about what we would like children to experience in the future. So I will definitely go back to your own roots and to your principles as an institution.
Thank you. Our second question, what are some of the physical space requirements for having STEM activities in the library? Um, are there things to think about such as housing and storage for STEM kits and materials?
That's a very important question because who has all the space in the world? I don't think we do, but I have like two ideas. One is what are you gonna do in terms of setting, and then the other level is what are you gonna do with all these goodies that you have here. And believe me, I have my basement is full of stuff of nets to do things with ladybugs and books of this and yeah, I totally feel for you that you need a space to store them. But let's start, let's go with the first level of the question, which is how to set up the space. And as I show you in one of the pictures of this library in Toledo, you don't just need the tables. And if you're concerned about the pristine condition of your tables, cover them with butcher paper, right? So people can write on them, spill things, painting, whatever. Cover them and use the space as it is, right? I will do that in my house. Do it in your house, right? Do it in your library. Cover the things and make people feel comfortable. I know that libraries used to be quiet, but these are activities that will make the library the community place to go. So make it cozy, make it comfortable in that sense. So in terms of setting, you just need tables. Use the parking lot, as I told you before. You can, and now in terms of storage, have like at home, like in your pantry, some staples, and then shop as you need according to the recipe. Meaning have always paint, brushes, scissors. Of course, if you have the opportunity to have tools such as gun gluing device or a hammer, things like that, those things are really doesn't take much space. But when you're gonna do the cardboard challenge, assign a place, collect the cardboard for that week or weekend that you're gonna do the program, and believe me, it's gonna be gone at the end of the program. So just be mindful that things that you need to have always and things that will come and go, and don't stress because this should be fun. And sometimes we're collecting like toilet paper rolls and towel paper rolls, and you collect, and then you use them and you're gone. Shop like in a day-to-day basis, or and store your staples only if you don't have much space.
Thank you, Amparo. Great thoughts. I think we're pretty close to time, but I'm going to throw one more question out for you.
Sure.
Do you have any thoughts on setting or not setting age limits for STEM programs?
Oh, well, you have a big challenge as well as museum has it, which is you don't serve specific groups of people, right? They're not such a thing as homogeneous groups of patrons or users in your library. It's like in the museum. It's the grandma with the kids, with the mom, with the neighbor, with the high school student, with the baby. So in this sense, it's a beautiful question, by the way. In this sense, the activities have to either have challenges within itself, meaning you start with a very simple activity. For example, I'm going to take this circuit, right? Okay, maybe for young children, it's connecting the battery to the strip, to the light, and that's it. And for older children, they can create, I'm going to open this other kit, which is creating a pin here, right? So you have a stamp, so you have more things to build. But the options are the same on the table. And children can go according to their skills and their interests as well, as far as they can go. So, for example, we were talking about these really cute books like Size Matters or Floating and Sinking. And yes, they are like young children books. But what if the challenge is for grown-ups, right? And the problem that we need to solve has different levels. And the other thing about the 4Cs is collaboration. You need to think also that the oldest ones can help the youngest ones, and the youngest ones have sometimes so crazy ideas that will make the oldest ones say, like, oh, I never thought about that. Let's try that idea as well. So don't think that the activity should be like, this is for 3 to 4. Sorry, if you don't have this age, you cannot play here. No, think more broadly. Think about these 4Cs of collaboration, communication, where people can partner, right? And put objects or even tools that will make the activity a little bit harder for some of them and a little bit like appropriate from others, right? I don't want to talk about easy or complicated, more than appropriate to the age and specifically their fine motor skills. They're very young children that are not ready to go with their wrist to crank screwdriver, but nevertheless, they can try it and do it with their whole body. Children are capable and competent, and we need to make this principle a cornerstone in our programming if we really want to help children achieve greater things with STEM activities.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It does look like we're out of time for today, so I want to thank you, Amparo, for sharing your knowledge and different ways we can create interactive STEAM learning experiences for children. And I hope that everyone was able to take away some new knowledge that supports your own initiatives. A recording of this webcast will be available on the Demco Ideas and Inspiration website by next week. So that's at ideas.demco.com. So you can review the presentation, you can share it with your colleagues. And next week you'll also be receiving an email that will include the slides and the resource list as well as the Q&A. You'll also be receiving a survey at the end of the webinar to let us know how we did. So please take a few moments to give us your feedback and thoughts on future webinar topics. We hope that you're able to join us for our upcoming webinar on February 23rd when Valerie Gross will be sharing her branding strategy for libraries that will help them gain the respect and funding they deserve. And you can register now for that on ideas.demco.com. Again, thank you for joining us today. Have a wonderful afternoon.